विष्णु श्रीपाद स्तोत्र सत्य श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की जय। शिला भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। शिला गौर किशोर दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय। श्री नवम श्री नव श्यामानंद प्रभुत्राय की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ श्री गोस्वामी की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री विदाग्रहा श्री गौर भक्तविंद की जय। श्री अंतवीर मायपुर श्रीमंतवीर कोलद्वीप जानवीर मोदाट रूमद्वीर रूदच होकर श्री नवदीप धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री श्याम कुंड राधिका यमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री गिरिराज गोवर्धन महाराज की जय। चार संप्रदाय की जय। सिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय। समगत भक्तविंद की जय। शशि गौरंदे हरि हरि। So I'm going to sing page 60, Akaroda Paramananda by Srila Laksman Das Thakur, page 60. Akarod Paramananda Nityanandara Akarod Paramananda Nityanandara Abhimana Shunya Nitya Nagare Veda Abhimana Shunya Nitya Nagare Veda Akroda Paramananda Nityanandara Akroda Paramananda Nityanandara Adhama Patita Jive Dware Dware Giya Adhama Patita Jive Dware Dware Giya Hari Nama Mantra Dichena Viraya Hari Nama Mantra Dichena Viraya Akora Paramananda Nityanandara Akroda Paramananda Nityanandara Jare dekhe tare kahe jante dina dhori Jare dekhe tare kahe jante dina dhori Amare kiniya Bolo Gaurahari Amare Kiniyalo Bolo Gaurahari Akroda Paramananda Nityanandara Akroda Paramananda Nityanandara Eto boli Nityananda Bhumega Dira बोले नित्यानंदा अब में गाली जाए सोनारा पटाता जेना दुलते लोता सोनारा पटाता जेना भुलाते लोता आखोटा परमानंद नित्यानंद आखोटा परमानंद नित्यानंद हेनो अवतारे रति राजनीरो हेनो अवतारे रति राजनीरो लोचन बोले से पापी हेलो आर हेलो लोचन बोले से पापी हेलो आर हेलो आक्रोधा परमानंद नित्यानंद आक्रोधा परमानंद नित्यानंद अभिमान शून्यता अभिमान शून्यता नगरे वेदाय हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे निताय है 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 गौरा 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 है जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura, Haribol, Nitai Gaura, Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura, Haribol.
Dandavat pranams. Thank you, Nalini. I'm just trying to work out whether you're a Chitaka bird or a Chakora bird. We'll have to figure that out.
What is the difference?
I always get really confused. That's part of the problem. So I'll let you know next week. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Vanchikapa turbis cha, kripa sindhueva cha, patitanam pavinabhyo, vaishnavabhyo namanamaha. Om Gyan Tirumandasya Gyanjana Salakaya Chakshmamilitam Yena Tashmai Shigurin Maha Chinadapi Sunichana Taro Rapi Sahishnana Amanina Manadena Kitani Sadahari Taten Kampam Susamik Shamano Bunjana Vatma Kritam Vipakam Hit Vakvaku Bhevididam Namaste Jiva Yo Mukti Sadaya Bak Vachavegam Manashikrodavegam Jiva Vegam Udurapasthavegam Itan Vegam Yo Vishaheta Dira Savam Apimam Pridivim Sashishyam Anya Balasta Sunyam Gyan Kamadina Vritam Anukalanya Krishna Shilanam Bhakti Uttama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, beloved, beautiful, beautiful Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Vaishnavettes. It is so relishable to be in this program. This is our 35th program. I offer my humble obeisances to my Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and to the entire parampara, and to all the assembled devotees, and all those devotees who will watch future recordings. It's always such a pleasure to be a part of this celebration, this Pushpanjali to our beloved Srila Gurudev, whose 100th appearance day, 100th year appearance day it is this year, or was this year, but it's the whole year we're celebrating. And today we have, it's our 35th, right, Yashodhara? 35th, it seems extraordinary. The 35, wow. So how many people have offered Pushpanjali? Like 120, 130, 140 devotees. It's amazing. And today is our 35th out of 64. And I like to represent that in terms of time. So we are now at, believe it or not, it's 1:08 p.m. Yay! Today is 1:08 p.m. in the normal human day of going through from 35 out of 64 programs. And for those of you like me who like to operate in the timeline of the day of Brahma, there's always one or two geeks in the audiences, and there are plenty of people who like to laugh at my ridiculous assertions here. We are in the 8th Manu, and we're in the 46th Chatra Yuga. We're in the Treta Yuga of that Chatra Yuga, and we're 1.188 million years into that period of time. Today we have a very relishable lineup of wonderful devotees. Remember, we've changed our program, so 1 week we do midday UK time, and 1 week we do 8 p.m. because we want those on the west coast of America and Hawaii and Australia and New Zealand to participate, because we love to hear your relishable Pushpanjalis. And we're going to be starting off shortly, going to Australia and Sriman Akhilesh Prabhu. And then from there, we'll be flying at the speed of light or actually faster than the speed of light, I believe over to Vancouver, where Sriman Laksman Prabhu is residing. And then, contrary to the published program, we were going to have Shamsundara Prabhu from Alachua, but he's going to be speaking another week. And I'm very, very, very grateful that Srimati Parvati Didi, at the very last moment, literally, I don't think she had more than 2 hours to prepare. I think that's extremely brave. Coming from Cleveland and Ohio, will be speaking third. And our fourth, but no means our finals, no means our least speaker. In fact, it'll be really lovely to connect with him again. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. Is Sriman Gaurasundar Prabhu from LA. So it's a mighty and beautiful lineup, and I'm going to hand over to my wonderful co-host Yashadari, who will introduce our first speaker. Dandavats Didi.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to say to the our first speaker, Akhilesh Prabhu, I know it's super early in the morning in Australia where you are, so I'm really, really grateful that you've got on our call first thing in the morning. So I'm really, really appreciative of that. So Akhilesh Prabhu is from the Gold Coast in Australia. He met the devotees in 1995 and met Srila Gurudev in March 1999. And within a week of meeting Srila Gurudev, he took Harinam and the Gopal mantras. And he's worked on translations for Gurudev's books and has translated many and worked with the translation team, and has translated in the mutts such as Rup Sanatan Gaudiya Mutt. And I'm sure that when there's been some translation needed in Australia, he's also been the person to go to for that. So with great pleasure and honor, I would like to invite our first speaker, Sriman Akhilesh Prabhu, to come and offer some Pushpanjalis, and I'm really excited to hear some memories from you as well. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Didi, Dandavats. How much time do I have?
So you have 30 minutes.
30 minutes, all right. Om Agyanatamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namam Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Shlanarayan Santram Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham Madhare Madhare Guneshayutam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mantam Narayanam Tam Shri Sanamami. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namam Vishnupadaya Acharya Sindharupine Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshavita Namane. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much to everybody for organizing such a wonderful, beautiful program. We are in these troubled times, but still we get to connect to each other in this wonderful manner. Technology is, not very welcome, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, all these scientists will keep on making new inventions, and we will give them benefit by using all these inventions in the service of the Lord. So this is our humble attempt, and this is our humble attempt that we try to use all this technology, otherwise completely useless, but still it can also be utilized in the service of the Lord. So in this beautiful year of Gurudev's 100th appearance day, we are collecting here to speak and memorize some of Gurudev's pastimes. I want to start with Pujapa Srila Bhaktivedanta Sridhar Maharaj. He used to quote about Gurudev that how there is mention in the Shastras by Kunti Devi. She's saying in Srimad Bhagavatam, she says, if a person has one of the 5 opulences, for such a person, it is impossible to enter into bhakti. Opulences means somebody is very beautiful, somebody very intelligent, somebody very powerful, somebody very knowledgeable, and such opulences. Anybody has one of these, it is impossible for such a person to be somebody very rich, for him to enter into devotional service or get into service of the Lord. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj then used to expand. He used to explain this many times. He said, and in our Gurudev, all these qualities were present to the full. Think about this, how handsome he was. I remember a long time back, I met a lady, if I'm not wrong, if I'm correct in remembering her name, Sumukhi Devi. She was Sumukhi from Moldova. And she mentioned to me, she said, oh, I was in Puri and I was with ISKCON devotees. And I suddenly saw one effulgent sannyasi surrounded by so many devotees. He's on the beach and I saw him wearing glasses. He was sitting, I saw him so handsome. I saw him so handsome and I saw that, oh, he's such a nice guru. She said, I became attracted to him because he was so handsome. And then when I heard his Harikatha, I said, I'm not going anywhere else. And Sridhar Maharaj used to describe that when first time he came from Orissa to India, to Vrindavan, Mathura, when he came there, he said it was winter time. And when he went there, he saw how Gurudev is sitting on the Vyasasana, so effulgent, so beautiful. A shining moon amongst all these stars. He's shining there, sitting there. And he said he had his head covered with the cap and his eyes, blue eyes, were shining from the cap. And he said, I was so attracted to him that what is this personality? Who's this person? He said, I was thinking he was so fair. It was winter. His cheeks were red. He was saying, I was thinking that is he Indian or is he Western? But then he started speaking Hindi with an accent. He said, oh, he definitely must be Indian. And then he said, this was his beauty. And such a beautiful person still comes into Krishna consciousness. Amazing. And then about his wealth, we know very well that he was working as a police inspector. And as a police inspector, you know, in India, there are, even if you don't want to, you are offered so many gifts, or in brackets, bribery. You are offered so many things and all. But Gurudev, he still left everything. One day, I remember, he left everything and came to Krishna consciousness. One day, I remember, a long time back, Gurudev made me in charge of Govardhan temple. We were in Govardhan and we took care of Govardhan temple. We used to very nicely take care. We improved the situation in the Govardhan temple to such extent that everybody went to Gurudev and they said that, oh, Akhilesh is doing such a nice job and he's done so many nice things. And some complications happened. And then Gurudev asked me to leave Govardhan. And I was very, very upset. I was very upset. And because I was very upset, then Gurudev realized I went away, and it was in Govardhan. I went away to Vrindavan. Vrinda Didi, Brajnath Prabhu, everybody was very upset. They couldn't understand why Gurudev is doing this. And then I went and didn't come for parikram, didn't come for anything about 2 days. I was so upset. I couldn't understand what is happening. I worked so hard. And I worked in so many ways. I tried to improve the situation in the temple. And here Gurudev is telling me to go away because of complaint of some devotees and all. Then Gurudev sent a message through Brajnath Prabhu to me. And he said to me, Akhilesh, you come and see me. I went to see him. I remember I went to him in his room in Govardhan. I paid my dandavats to him. And then he said, Akhilesh, I have heard about you being a very good manager of the entire place and all, and you have done wonderful things. But I have still asked you to leave. And I also understand that you and many other devotees are upset by this decision of mine. First of all, Gurudev said, you should have faith in me. What I'm doing for you, it is for your benefit. And number two, tell me honestly, how many rounds are you chanting? I said, Gurudev, I'm struggling to chant 16 because I'm so busy with everything here. At the end of the day, I'm so tired. In the morning, again, everything starts. He said, did I call you to come to me for chanting 16 rounds or less? He said, you become the best of managers. You become very successful in business. You become very successful in material life. He said, I have no regard for this. I have no requirement for this. I said, I only call you to me so that you'll be able to chant 64 and more. He said, I want all my devotees to chant 64 and more. I heard this and I tried to understand this, but still it remained some pain remained in my heart. Just a few years back, I was chanting, and I was trying to work on my chanting and all. And then Gurudev's words came to me, struck like lightning. I said that actually, I'm trying what I'm trying today. Gurudev told me long back that, Akhilesh, I want you to chant 64. I don't want you to become a wonderful manager, and I don't want you to become successful in anything else. That is Gurudev's requirement. That is Gurudev's requirement. And Gurudev said that also when I went to Govardhan, the point I was trying to make here, when I went to Govardhan, and that time when I was speaking, he said, do you know, I belong to a very nice family and all. I had everything materially, I had everything set up for me, but I left that and came within a second to the temple. Within a second, I stayed in the temple. I didn't go back. You know, when we hear these words, it means just words. I'm telling you, to me at least, it just means words. Sometimes this realization comes when I compare myself that how Gurudev left so easily everything. And how for me, even to leave a simple position is so difficult. We are so attached to so many things. It's near next to impossible to leave all these things. So about renunciation, we can understand that Gurudev so renounced within a second. He left his wife, he left his family, he left everything that he had, and he came to his Gurudev. And he did, of course, we know so many services he did. So renounced person and intelligence. One day I was walking in Vrindavan, and the shopkeeper there, they didn't know that I'm Pujavashla, Gurudev's disciple. And this is just extempore. I'm just hearing them. And they're speaking amongst each other. They're speaking, discussing that, I've realized they're discussing, these shopkeepers are discussing amongst themselves. He said, you know what I've realized? The most intelligent person, the most wonderful devotee in all this Vrindavan and Braj is Srila Narayan Maharaj. How beautifully he speaks. How beautifully. He doesn't know. I'm just hearing. They don't know I'm his disciple. They're just hearing. And another time, Srila Madhav Maharaj described, I was not in that meeting, but Srila Madhav Maharaj described that how all the intellectuals, all the pandas of Braj, they decided to have a meeting, and they were glorifying Shri Krishna. It was Krishna's Janmashtami. In Mathura, they had arranged a meeting in the big temple where Krishna's birth pastime took place. There, this meeting was held, and Gurudev was invited there, and Gurudev was, everybody is speaking and everybody is describing that how Krishna took birth in Mathura, and he's Mathura Vasi, and then he went to Vrindavan, etc., etc. They are describing, and then came Gurudev's time to speak, and Gurudev, of course, what he is, he immediately spoke. Gurudev said that Krishna never took birth in Vrindavan. Krishna never took birth in Mathura. He took birth in Vrindavan, and he just appeared in Mathura. And of course, all the pandas, all the intellectuals of Mathura and Vrindavan, Braj, they became very upset. And a commotion started. Madhav Maharaj was describing this to me. A commotion started in the meeting, and everybody protested that this is not correct what you are speaking. Then Gurudev said, listen, he quoted shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, and how Krishna appeared in Mathura, and then he took birth in Vrindavan. He quoted this shlok. I remember this shlok. There are more shloks he quoted, but I can remember one shlok in which he said that when Kamsa is trying to kill the daughter of Mother Yashoda, she slips from his hand and she falls down. She goes up in the sky and gives a kick to Kamsa. And that time she mentions to him that, oh fool, what you are trying to kill me? The person who's supposed to kill you has already taken birth in Vrindavan. She's saying, who is she? She's Yoga Maya. She's saying, person who is supposed to kill you has already taken birth. So this is the evidence that already taken birth means he has taken birth in Vrindavan. Like this Gurudev said, and he said, I know this from Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna took birth in Vrindavan. And if you do not agree with me, I can walk away from this meeting right now. And he motioned to get up, and everybody said, no, you sit down. And everybody listened to him very carefully, and his words were established. So Gurudev Madhav Maharaj was saying, and Gurudev in the end, when you were coming, he said, you should always be bold. What you know and what you have believed in, what you have heard from your Guru work, you should always be bold. Do not be intimidated by all these wonderful or so-called exalted Brajbasis. You should and this was his knowledge. He was so established, and wealth. Of course, we know what kind of wealth he had. We know he collected so much, and he had so many temples. And he has a room in Vrindavan. He has a room in Gopinath Bhavan. Then he has a room in other temples all over the world. And he has all these opulences. But how much is he utilizing all this? He goes in one temple, stays 1 or 2 days, and leaves. He stays in 1 or 2 temples and leaves. I also done some traveling with Srila Maharaj in my translation work and all. We used to travel all the world, translating and all. And I tell you, it is not easy to travel. And Gurudev traveling year after year, traveling like this. Such a great austerity. We cannot even understand what kind of austerity Gurudev had to go through just for preaching. He could have rested in one place, but no, he was so renounced. every place he would utilize just for the service of the Lord, just for preaching. Every place. And then like this, he had all these opulences, but still, and power, strength. What kind of strength he had? Some devotees were telling me that from other mutts I met in Braj, and they used to tell me that when we had any problem in any mutt, anywhere in Braj, all of us used to go. We could not resolve it. We tried to resolve it at whatever level we had to reach, wherever we had to go. If we could not resolve it, eventually they said we went to Gurudev. They came to Gurudev, and Gurudev will resolve anything. Gurudev will send people. There are so many instances. Time is short, and past times are so many. So there are so many instances in which Gurudev has helped in so many ways, by his intellect, by his strength, by his guidance. In so many ways, Gurudev saw such a strong personality, like a pillar for the entire Gaudiya Math. And Sridhar Maharaj also used to mention, I've heard Sridhar Maharaj most, so I like to quote him more than anybody else. So Sridhar Maharaj also used to say that, in all the mutt all around the world, the main problem, the main argument, the main fight amongst everybody is what? That he is my disciple and he is your disciple, and he should be established as in charge of this, in charge of that. And Gurudev, look at Gurudev's Sangha. Look at who is surrounding Gurudev, who is close to Gurudev. None of his are his disciples. None of them. He never cared that he's my disciple, I should uplift him. He always cared whoever had bhakti, he should try to encourage him. Anybody he saw bhakti in, he would encourage that person, regardless of he was his disciple or not. So this was, and I also want to mention that what was Gurudev's desire? What did actually Gurudev want from us? One day, I was in the Govardhan temple, we were doing parikram, and some devotee approached him, and he asked him, "Oh Gurudev, what is the service that I can perform to you? I'm going away to the West now. What is the service that I can perform for you, which will make you the happiest?" And I was there, and I looked at Gurudev. I was in my mind, in that time, my mind is coming that, oh, Gurudev will ask that we should go and preach, or you should go and open a temple, or he will ask him to go book distribution, this, that. You know what Gurudev said? Gurudev said, you should chant 64 rounds minimum every day. That's the maximum happiness for me. That will bring me this service of yours. When he said these words, that chant 64 or more, and that will give me, this is the service that you can perform. It was like eye-opening that this is actually what Gurudev wants. Another time I was sitting with Ramchandra Prabhu, just very, very beginning. I've just taken initiation from Gurudev, maybe 1 or 2 months, and I'm sitting with Ramchandra Prabhu from Delhi. And I'm sitting with him, and then I showed him my Japa Mala, and I said, Prabhuji, there is these beads are there, then there are these 4. So what does this mean? He said, this means that you have to chant 16, and then you have to chant 4 times 16. So you have to chant 64. I asked Gurudev that, Gurudev, you have given us this mala. You have given us this mala. So should we start gradually, or should I start 16, or should I chant 64? He said, I want all my disciples to chant 64. I want all my disciples to chant 64. This is my desire. This is what I require from you. And another time, and how we should chant, what kind of absorption we should have chanting. One time, the first bus parikram that takes part in Braj, the first parikram goes to Madhuban. And Gurudev was driving his car. Gurudev was going in his car. Deep Krishna Prabhu, he was driving his car. And I was also in the car, and we were like sort of competing with each other. And we trying to reach there first. And both of us reached within a few seconds of each other. We reached Madhuban. When we reached Madhuban, of course, we paid dandavats to the place. And there came a sadhu. A sadhu came there. And he also paid his, we could see that he is a resident of that place. And he had a small hut sort of a place in that Madhuban. And he came there and he offered his dandavats to Gurudev. And then he said to Gurudev, I was standing right next to Gurudev, and Gurudev, he came to Gurudev, he said, oh Gurudev, I am, oh Maharaj, he said to him, oh Maharaj, I am here for 20 years, 25 years, I'm here, and I'm so intense bhajan I'm performing here, but still no result is coming. What is happening? What should I do? What more can I do? And Gurudev looked at him very gravely. He said, so when you are chanting, what kind of absorption do you have? He said, I'm very deeply absorbed. He said, when you are chanting, does it feel like to you that if Krishna will not appear to you, Krishna will not come to you, you will immediately leave your body? He said, no, I do not chant like this. He said, does it feel like that with every word that you are speaking, every breath, when Krishna, this name is coming out, does it feel to you that with this breath, either Krishna will give you darshan, either with this chanting of Krishna's name will give you darshan, or you will leave your body? He said, no, I don't feel like this. He said, until and unless you do not reach this stage, he said, it will not be possible to have darshan. So Gurudev, by this, actually, he gave instruction to us also that this should be our absorption. This should be what we should be aiming for. Such absorption we need. And Gurudev, of course, when he was describing his pastime, he said that he spent few months, I think, if I'm not wrong. He spent few months or maybe longer, I'm not 100% sure, don't remember exactly, in Govardhan. The place where our mutt is, that is the place where Gurudev performed his austerities, pastimes, or pastimes of his chanting in deep absorption. He was describing that I used to sit here and chant. I used to chant a minimum of 1 lakh. I used to chant a minimum of 1 lakh or 2 lakhs. He's saying, and what kind of situation did I have? He said, where there is the office now, he said there was a small hut. I used to sit there. I used to chant. And he said, one time it flooded that place and I was cooking. And he said, I had a kerosene stove. He said the kerosene stove was floating on water. And this was floating on water and I had to cook like this. And he said, I'm not speaking about this to be one day affair. This used to be every day when it was raining. And still I performed my bhajan. I never lagged in my number of rounds that I chanted. I never lagged. He said, all of you, he said, will have to one day perform your chanting like this. All of you will have to perform your austerities like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. All these people resided near Govardhan and they performed their austerities. Austerities for us means chanting, deep absorption in chanting. He said, when we will be able to absorb ourselves in chanting like this, only then you will get success. He said, you can listen to me today. Gurudev then elaborated. He said, either you can listen to me today or you will follow this maybe after 10 years or maybe after 10 lives or 20 lives. But one day you will have to chant like this to gain success. The Gurudev wanted us to chant minimum 64 rounds and more and absorb ourselves deeply. And Gurudev also, he mentioned so many times, this was by Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Viscon. He said, anybody who is serious and is chanting, he said he will get up in the morning. He'll get up in the morning and he will chant. When he will begin to chant in the morning, just like, remember this, at any song that you listen in the morning, it remains with you throughout the day. Anything that you have had conversation, it remains with you throughout the day. Similarly, when you chant deeply, he said, when you will chant deeply, absorb yourself deeply for a few hours in the morning, this chanting will remain with you all day. And you will actually, maybe you are doing so many other activities, business activities, studying, or whatever you are absorbed in, other activities. He said this chanting will remain with you and subconsciously you will keep on chanting. This is the secret of chanting, that you have to chant 64 or more. You have to chant like this. You have to absorb yourself deeply in at least, he said, you are spending so much time. Gurudev used to say, you are spending so much time in so many other activities. When you are doing so, and he said, he used to say that when you are doing some activities, you do not get success if you want to become a doctor, if you want to become a lawyer, if you want to become anything, even if you want to become a plumber. You cannot become even a plumber or an electrician and all unless until you try to absorb yourself, learn thoroughly and absorb yourself and learn. Unless you do not get some material benefit, you do not get some material education and all, you cannot have properly unless until you have this absorption. How is it possible for us to gain Krishna, the highest of the high things in the universe, without some absorption? He said, you have to give some time. Do not chant like some devotees that joke. Do not chant Facebook chanting, television chanting. Do not chant all these chantings or Prajalpa chanting. Hare Krishna, Gurudev used to joke. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The prasad is ready, I am coming. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Okay, I'm coming now. The car is working. Please, can you fix the window? Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. He said, no, no, no. When you absorb, you should forget about everything else in the world. Even if there is earthquake happening, when you sit down, he said, who is the main culprit in our chanting? Who is the person who is really disturbing us in our chanting? He said, nobody else, our own mind. He said, when you sit down in the morning to chant, like Srila Bhakti Saraswati Prabhupada mentioned so many times, take a slipper in your hand. Take a slipper in your hand and hit your mind 100 times before you sit down to chant. What it means, Gurudev used to describe what it means. Hit your mind with slipper 100 times before sitting down to chant. He said it means that you control your mind before you sit down to chant. You tell your mind that, oh mind, let there be an earthquake, let there be a hurricane, whatever be there, let there be, and I will, for the next 1 hour or 2 hours, all I'm going to do is chant. He said the mind is very tricky. These are Gurudev's words I'm repeating. The mind is very tricky. The moment you will sit down to chant, that very moment he will give you so many other activities to do. Oh, don't you remember you have to do that? Oh, don't you remember? And this is the time, he said, when so many memories from the past will come. He said, do not worry this. These memories from the past, all these different directions that your mind is trying to take you through. Actually, this is what is sadhana. Sadhana means to become controlled. Become controlled means the mind will try to control you by giving you so many different directions to take, for your mind to think so many different. But what do? All right, mind is separate from me. At the moment I have decided that I will chant for so many hours. And like this, you will see gradually the mind will keep on. In the beginning, the mind will be very strong. No, 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 listen to this. No, 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 listen to that. No, 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 see this, see that. It brings so many images in the mind. Do this, see that, see this. You do not listen to him. Do not listen. Just like somebody is speaking to you, and you do not listen to him, what happens? Her voice becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Similarly, when you sit down to chant every day, and you should chant every day in the same place, same time, he said, up till now, our mind was the enemy, taking us here and there. And you will see this mind will become your friend. Just by absorption, just by chanting again and again, you will get a habit. And if suppose you are going to miss the chanting one day because of some other activity or something that you have to perform, you will see your mind will be reminding that you haven't chanted. You haven't chanted. Now you become in this habit that your mind now wants you to chant. He said, give yourself a fixed time, give yourself fixed hours and chant every morning. This was Gurudev's desire, that we have to chant like this. So like this, Gurudev also, he used to, I remember one time how fortunate we are. We have come to this pastime. We have come to this pastime of Gurudev. We have been able to associate with Gurudev. We cannot imagine how lucky and how fortunate. Two instances come in my mind when I think about what kind of a person Gurudev was. One time, this pastime, maybe many people know that how one time it was in Vrindavan. It was Kartik time, Parikram time, and we were in Gopinath Bhavan. We were there, and then one pujari came from Seva Kund, and he brought a basket of flowers, sweets, etc. He brought, and Gurudev had just finished class, and he had had breakfast, and he was not keeping good health. It was around, if I'm not wrong, it was around 11 o'clock in the morning, I think, and Gurudev had gone to take rest. Then he came, this pujari from Seva Kund came. He said, "Oh, I have brought something for Gurudev. Can I give it to him?" Madha Maharaj said that he's not keeping very well, and he's taking some rest. So maybe you can give it to me. I will give it to him. And this pujari said, "No, no, 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 no. I will come." He said, "Tell me what time he will be up." He said, "He will be up again at 4 o'clock, 4:30, something like that." He said, "You come at 4:30." He said, "All right." And then he came at again at 4:30. He came. I was there in the Gopinath Bhavan, and I was observing what happened and all. He again came with this basket and all. And then Madha Maharaj told him that Gurudev is up. He said, "Yeah, Gurudev is up. I've told him, and he's waiting for you." So then this pujari came inside, and he took this basket of flowers, sweets, etc., and he took to Gurudev, and he offered to Gurudev. Gurudev said, "What is this?" He said, "Oh, I've been ordered by last night. Srimati Radharani came in my dream, and she said to me that, can you please give some sweets and flowers to my very dear Manjari who is there in Gopinath Bhavan? Can you give it to her? And on the order of Radharani, I've come this to give to you." He said, "Oh." Gurudev immediately honored. He accepted this prasad with a lot of awe and reverence. He accepted this very happily. And then Gurudev said, indicated to Madhav Maharaj, give him some pranami. And he wanted to give some pranami to him. And this Pujari refused. You know, the Pandavas, the Pujaris in Vrindavan temples, they never refuse money. But he refused. He said, no, 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 I cannot take. He said, why? He said, no, no, no. This was by the order of Radharani. I cannot accept money because Radharani had ordered me. And this pastime we used to quote and discuss so many times. Sridhar Maharaj used to insist. He said, just by this, you can understand what kind of a person he was and who he was and whom we associated with. Just because he came to us in a form of a human being or like an acted like a old person, we cannot understand his real position and all. And another pastime that comes to my mind, Malini Didi from Brisbane, she is a naturopath. And when the last parikram that Gurudev took part in Kartik, 2010, Kartik time, and she was naturopath and she was taking care of Gurudev. And then in the night, she would stay there as far as possible and she would take care if Gurudev needed anything. And she was deeply absorbed in serving Gurudev. And one day in the around evening time, we were standing together and she was telling me, she said, I saw a dream yesterday. I said, okay. She said, I saw a dream. I was so worried about Gurudev, what is happening to him. And I can see that his health is going down every day. He's not improving actually. I was very worried. He said, with this thought in my head, I went to sleep. And she said, and I saw in my dream, she's saying that I saw that Gurudev is very sick and I'm standing at Gurudev's bedstead and I'm asking him, oh Gurudev, how can I help you? What is happening to you? What will happen from here? Then Gurudev, she said, I saw Gurudev. He was, up till now, he was lying down, covered with blankets. He said, I saw him throw away all the blankets, stand up on the bed, and he immediately changed form like a young girl and he jumping up and down, up and down. And he said, and then she again lie down and again an old man sitting there. She said the same pastime she mentioned to Brajnath Prabhu. Brajnath Prabhu said, yes, this is his position. So we were so fortunate that we had association of such a person. Another time I remember one day when Gurudev had left body and we were in Vrindavan, we were in Braj that time. And of course, all of us devotees, we, whatever flights we could get, hundreds of devotees that day. I think there were, whatever flights were there, every flight there were 10, 20, 30, 40 devotees were there. At one flight I heard there were more than 100 devotees. There was only 5 or 10 other people and all devotees were there trying to reach Calcutta. From Calcutta, we were trying to reach Navadip because Gurudev, we heard that from Puri, he left his body in Puri and then he came to, he was brought to Navadip to be given Samadhi there. So we went there and there we saw Gurudev was lying on the ice and all his body was covered with flowers, etc. So I remember I got up on the dais where he was and then we decorated Gurudev. We did whatever had to be done and then Gurudev was taken away. And Gurudev was taken away for Samadhi, for giving a bath, etc. Before Samadhi, he was taken away and I collected these flowers. This is my experience. I collected these flowers on which Gurudev was lying or which were lying on Gurudev. And all these flowers had been left behind. I collected all these flowers. A lot of flowers I took in my Anjali, like this, in my palms. And I smelled them. And I thought that I know these flowers. I know these are marigold flowers and some jasmine flowers. I know. But they don't smell like marigold or jasmine. I said, oh, these are very strange. This is a very strange, wonderful smell. And I thought maybe I'm just being sentimental. And I called Vajanti Maladi. And I said, I didn't say anything to her, my feeling. And Didi, I gave her some flowers as well. And I said, just smell them. She smelled them and she said, wonderful smell. What is this flowers? I said, I don't know. And then we also gave these flowers to Shyamarani Didi. And Shyamarani Didi had the same reaction. And I was thinking these flowers, because of associating with Gurudev, my experience from smelling those flowers was, I was thinking, these are flowers, which is like, these are not smell of fragrance of 1 or 2 flowers. It felt like the entire garden of flowers had collected there in this small bunch of flowers, and they smelled something which I had never felt. And even Shyamara and Didi admitted that yes, these flowers, what we had the experience of, these were something totally divine, just by associating with Gurudev. By all these, actually, we can understand Gurudev was, because for unintelligent person like me, a foolish person like me, miracles, like Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj used to say, miracles are for fools. So for a foolish person like me, we have to see such miracles to develop faith in Gurudev. Otherwise, Gurudev, just by his seva, just by his absorption, just by the way he behaved in his life, we can see that he's not an ordinary person. But for persons like me, he has to perform such pastimes. He has to perform such miracles. Otherwise, his absorption and his seva attitude, I remember hearing from Gurudev that how one time, what kind of seva attitude he had. I just remember about Gurudev that how one time Pujava Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he wanted some book to be translated. I'm forgetting which book it was. If I'm not wrong, I think it was Harinam Chintamani. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. It was a small, thin book, and this he wanted to translate. And he was mentioning that who can translate this, means from Bengali to Hindi. Then Gurudev said, I will do it. And Gurudev took this book away. He said he sat down in his room and he started translating this. He started translating this and he kept on translating. All night he stayed up. He finished this translation, and then he came in the morning when he saw his he saw through his window. It was overlooking the pandal, the temple room. It was overlooking from his room. He could see the temple room, and he saw that Mangalarati was starting. So he went with this translation, and he went to Pujapa Srila Param Gurudev. Mangalarati finished. He handed this over. He looked at him, Param Gurudev. He said, "What is this?" He said, "Oh, you told me to translate this, so I translated." He said, "You stayed the entire night up?" He said, "Yes." Entire night he stayed up. He finished the translation. He said, "You told me to translate." Param Gurudev did not mention anything, but he put his head on his hand on his head. This was the kind of service that Gurudev would do. This was the kind of service that Gurudev did. That one, Gurudev, because he gave him order, I will have to translate. All night he stayed up and he translated. This was the kind of service. So by all these, we can understand the kind. Gurudev always such a humble personality, although he had such wonderful knowledge, although he had such everything around him, everything surrounding him was anybody's head could have twisted. But Gurudev always remained humble. I remember, don't want to mention many names and all. I remember we went to Fiji once, and Gurudev, it was Gurudev's program. We went to Fiji, and we were staying at the house of the Punjas. We were staying there, and then some devotees, the ladies of the house and the Prabhus of the house, we are just having informal chat, and we are discussing. We are discussing and we are describing how when Gurudev comes, it is like a festival. It is like so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. And she said, I remember the lady of the house said, when some other devotees, some other Maharaj used to come before and from some other institution, we used to tremble in our legs because what he will like, what he will not like, it was so different. But when Gurudev comes, it is such different energy. It feels like a festival. It feels like my father is coming. Another pastime that comes in my mind about how Gurudev is and how Gurudev's behavior is so natural, so simple, and so straightforward. My mother, she was initiated in ISKCON initially. And she had a friend who also wanted to get initiated. And they're discussing amongst each other. They're discussing amongst each other that, oh, tomorrow I have to get my initiation. And before initiation, they have given me this questionnaire. And I have to fill up this questionnaire. This form I have to fill up. And after that, they will give me initiation. And they were discussing, I'm in another room, I can overhear them, but I'm not participating in the discussion. And they're discussing like this, that what kind of initiation is this, that we have to fill up this form? This seems to be very strange. And they're discussing, then they said, we should ask Akhilesh what he thinks about this. Then they called me, Akhilesh, my mother called me, Akhilesh, come here. And I went in the other room, and they said, she wants to ask you something, my mother's friend. I said, yes. He said, what do you think? whom I should take initiation from. I said, hold on. I went to my room. I brought Gurudev's photograph. I said, she asked me, who you think is qualified enough that, or whom you think is the best person in the brush today, in India today, whom I can take initiation from. I went in my room and brought Gurudev's photograph. I said, I don't know anybody. There may be many, many exalted people more, but I don't know anybody else. I know only this person. He said, can I take initiation from him tomorrow? I had to take initiation from him, from ISKCON tomorrow, but I'm very doubtful about this procedure and all. I won't take initiation from him tomorrow. I said, I don't know. We can go and we can see. She said, okay, what time we can go? I said, we can go early in the morning. I know Gurudev goes for morning walk. Around 7 o'clock, 7:15, he comes back. And by that time, we should be there. She said, all right. So in the morning, she had a driver and she had a chauffeur-driven car. And she came to my house, from her house, around 5 o'clock or something. And we left for Vrindavan. And from Mathura, he's in Mathura. And we went to Mathura. And I paid my dandavas and Gurudev said, yes. I said, Gurudev, she wants to take initiation from you. He said, she wants to take initiation from me. He said, oh, when did you hear about me? She said, yesterday. He said, and you want to take initiation from me today? She said, yes. He said, how is that possible? That's not possible. You have to go and first you go downstairs and we are in Gurudev's room upstairs. He said, you should go downstairs, buy my lectures. In those days, it used to be cassettes. So buy the cassettes of my lectures, buy some books, read about me, read about my thoughts, and after a few months, come back when you understand what I stand for, who I am, then I will give you initiation. Now this lady looked at me, what to do? I said, actually, Gurudev, she's from Mathura. You know, Gurudev has a weak point. Gurudev he's very attached. He's very affectionate towards his Mathura Vasi, to all the residents of Mathura. When up till now, Gurudev was dealing with her officially. But when I mentioned to Gurudev that she's from Mathura, now Gurudev had said, he said, oh, are you from Mathura? He said, yes, I am from Mathura. But I got married. And because of my marriage, I'm staying in Delhi. She said, oh, do you know anybody in Mathura? She said, yes. My auntie is here. He said, can you bring my auntie? Can you bring your auntie? He said, yes, I will go. And she immediately went with the driver and she brought her auntie. And this auntie is a disciple of Gurudev. The moment she entered the room and Gurudev said, oh, is she your niece? He said, yes, she's my niece. She's a good girl? He said, yes, she's a good girl. Does she fight with you? He said, she never fights with me. He said, all right, everybody go out. I'm giving her an initiation. And he gave her Harinam and then he gave her Gopal Mantra also. And we are outside and this lady comes. She's very much senior to me in age, but she immediately comes to me and she starts to fall down at me. I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, Prabhu, Akhilesh, Prabhu, you have given me such a wonderful gift. You know what kind of a person you have brought me to, such a nice person. He said, up till now, you were coming to Mathura and you were coming to your auntie or to your uncle or to your relatives. Now, whenever you will come to Mathura, you will come to me because I'm your father from today. And when she was speaking this, she had tears in her eyes and she was so happy. And always, of course, she remained faithful towards Gurudev. Always, of course, she remained with Gurudev. So these are, yes.
Oh, sorry, we're just short on a little bit of time.
Yeah, okay, I will finish now. I'll finish. So these are some of the remembrances of Gurudev. Gurudev, of course, such an affectionate person. Gurudev, of course, so warm person. Every time, I remember another time we took somebody to Gurudev. You know, she was our neighbor, this lady, and we took to Gurudev. He has millions of disciples, hundreds of thousands of people. If you want to see how many disciples he has, you should go in Mathura in Guru Purnima time. Oh my God, it seems like Kmart or some airport, very busy airport, people coming in, going out, so many people. And one lady, our neighbor, she said, I also want to go and see Gurudev. And she went to see Gurudev and Gurudev immediately looked at her. He said, oh, where are you from? From thousands of people, he recognized that he hasn't met this person. This was Gurudev's mood. This is Gurudev's, he's our eternal father. And I pray to him through this wonderful, beautiful opportunity given to us by Yashodanan Prabhu and Didi here, Yashodri Didi, that they have arranged this beautiful festival of glorifying Gurudev. I pray to Gurudev that I am very, very unqualified, but you are very qualified. I have no qualification, but please don't forget me. Hare.
Firstly, I didn't actually want you to stop. your stories are like completely mesmerizing. I think you could speak for the whole program itself. Just your memories, they're just so beautiful, and I love the way that you kind of shown Siddhanta with the memories that you had with Srila Gurudeva. It's so weird, and you're not going to believe this, Akhilesh Prabhu, but not yesterday, the day before, I was reading a morning walk or something like that, and Vrinda Didi, Gurudeva was speaking in a program, and he was speaking about you and that situation.
Oh.
And it's bizarre. He basically was saying to Vrinda Didi, you might think I'm being unfair. I'll try and send it to you, but it's very sweet. You're saying that you think I'm being unfair, but just trust me. I know that what I'm doing is good for him too. And it was just so beautiful, because it just showed that just the essence of letting Gurudev not be the doer, and just putting full faith in that, and he will look after you. Look at how wonderful of a God, a son that he has in you. Like he must be so proud of you to have such a beautiful darling son. So, and I'm very proud to have such a wonderful God brother. That's definitely for sure. And so it was really bizarre when you told that story, because I was wondering if it was you, and then you told that story and I was like, oh my God, it's you. So it was really, I'll try and find it for you so that you can have a read of it. And it's so...
Yeshadari, just 1 second before you move on to that story. Akhilesh, Prabhu, beautiful sharing. That story also I've heard for many years. I didn't know it was you. And I got told a totally different angle of that story, that the person who was asked to leave Govardhan was very competent. And the person who was asked to replace you was not so competent in that position, and people couldn't understand. And Gurudev explained to somebody that he knew that if he moved you from that position, he knew you had the faith to continue following him and keep the right path. But if he didn't give the savor to the other person, he was worried that that other person was going to steer off the path. So that's another angle of it.
Yeah, Trandi Maharaj told this to me. He's mentioned to me that Trandi Maharaj was fighting with Gurudev. He was arguing with Gurudev. Why did you let Akhilesh go? You should let the other person go. And because of this faith that Gurudev put in me, that time Gurudev said to him, I know Akhilesh will handle the situation. This other person will not be able to handle. He said, when I heard this, it was like a stream of Ganga flow through my heart. He said, oh, Gurudev has so much faith in me. There was so much faith in me. He said, no, I had. I'm not saying that I didn't have. I had so many doubts about his decision, but gradually I grew over this decision, and then I gradually understood actually Gurudev wants nothing from us. He wants that we should absorb ourselves in chanting and not become successful in any other thing that we are trying to do. If we are successful in anything else, he's not very happy, but we are successful in chanting, he's very happy.
Yeah, he was focusing on engaging you both in the path of seva, as opposed to losing one of you. And so it shows how Gurudev is interested in the internal result, not the external.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Sorry, Yeshadari, I interjected. Back to you.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
Yeshadari Prabhu was just apologizing, but it's not a problem. I was just saying the other thing that you spoke about Gurudev and his personality was that he always used to he didn't discriminate about who was who, and you explained that so beautifully. Like, it didn't matter whose disciple was who. If you were sincere, Gurudev will take you under his wing and try and help you as much as he can. And I remember Gurudev's one lecture that he was saying, I can't remember where he was reading, but he said to his own disciples that I didn't come for you, I came for Srila Swami Maharaj's disciples to help them. And it's just so important that even though Gurudev was saying, it sounds a bit harsh, but actually reality is that we're really lucky, because I always say this, that Srila Swami Maharaj's disciples helped me because I met my Gurudev because of them. And Yeah, so and you're right, anyone that was around Gurudev was a mixture of people. You had Guru Govinda Maharaj's Goswami Maharaj's disciples, you had Srila Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Maharaj's Goswami Maharaj's disciples, you had Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Srila Bhakti Puri Goswami Maharaj's, the whole, pretty much the whole of Gaudiya Mutt's disciples came to Srila Gurudev, and he embraced them, and he didn't ever think anything of it, but just to help. That's all he wanted, you know. And that was really important. And then the final thing before we move over to the last speaker is about chanting, and how important it is that we chant and ensure that we chant our 64 rounds. And Gurudev really impressed that message on all of us. I remember one story where Gurudev I was watching a like Harikatha, I think it was in Australia as well, and Gurudev was sitting there and he was showing his beads, and he was like, oh, people say 16 rounds is enough, but why do you and then he pointed his bead, he pulled his beads out, and he goes, does everyone have the same kind of bead bag? And everyone's like, yes. And then he pointed to the Japamala counting beads, and he said, does everyone have the same bead counting beads? And he said, everyone said yes. And he goes, how many are on this? Everyone said 16. And then he said, how many are on this? And he said 4. And then he goes, well, then your Guru Maharaj just tricked you, because he wouldn't have given you 4 of these if he didn't want you to chant them. So like this, he was explaining that. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your beautiful stories of Srila Gurudev. They're like super nectar, and it's just such a beautiful way of us starting our program. And I know it's super early, but perhaps in the future we can get you back on and you can share some more stories with us. We would be really honored if you could do that for us. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So now we move over. So I think Yashodananda Prabhu said our next speaker is in Vancouver, but he might be in Toronto. I don't know. Maybe Toronto, Vancouver, same country, just different cities. So our next,
a few thousand miles.
Yeah, that's all right. It's same city, same country. It's like going from London to Scotland, isn't it?
It's about 3,000 kilometers away.
Oh. It's a flight then.
Oh yeah.
So are you in Vancouver, Prabhuji, or are you in Vancouver? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm in Vancouver. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just 1:15 here in the afternoon.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm just going to quickly introduce you, and then I will let you offer your Pushpanjali. So Sriman Laksman Prabhu joined ISKCON in 1999 in Toronto, Canada. That's why I thought Toronto. And joined the Venice Temple in LA, California in 2006, where he met Gurudev and received Harinam and Diksha together. He has lived in devotee communities in Toronto, LA, Hawaii, and the last 4 years going back and forth between Australia and Vancouver. He's a musician, and and that's how he met the devotees in the first place. And he's also been a pujari in the I can't even say the word.
Murwillumbah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Gurudev Temple, as well as Baja. So without further ado, and my awful introduction of you, Lakshman Prabhu, I would like to introduce you, Sriman Laksman Prabhu, to come and offer his Pushpanjali. Hare Krishna, and please forgive me for giving you such an awful introduction.
No, that was fine, Yashoda. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that. I joined in 1997, and through music, I met a young devotee whose father was the Toronto president for many years, and he ran the temple. So that's how I got connected there. But for my experience with Srila Gurudev is like, I was so afraid Gurudev. Well, first of all, I want to say how much of an opportunity and grateful I am to be able to speak with all my God brothers and sisters. I have no idea what I had done or how it's possible that I've come into this association. And I think that's kind of the focus that I'd like to share here, is how merciful Gurudev is. And hopefully you guys can get something out of my sharing here. So for me, I spent a number of years in and out of ISKCON temple, doing my best to try and achieve some emancipation. And I was really, really searching for answers to life and the meaning of life and stuff like that. So obviously then I came into Krishna consciousness. But it was a number of years later, after I had split up with a girlfriend, and I was, what am I doing with myself? And I was by myself in my apartment, and I picked up the Nectar of Devotion, and I started reading it again, plowing through it, and Srila Rupa Goswami saying over and over again how important it is to have a spiritual master, how important you can't get Krishna praying without a spiritual master, you can't achieve the result. So I was really, really desiring it. And for the third time, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm moving into the temple. I'm shaving my head. I'm going to take Diksha, or I'm going to take initiation from a spiritual master, and I'm just going to go for it. So I moved back into the temple for the third time, and I was aspiring for initiation from the sannyasi who was at the temple at the time. I was fortunate enough to have a Gurudev disciple come, whose name is Krishna Priya Devi from Vancouver. Many of you might know her. She's tall, blonde, and very strong in her faith with Gurudev. She's been with him since she's young. Anyway, she was at the temple at the time, and she told me about Gurudev, and she gave me a Jive Dharma. And of course, in ISKCON during the late 90s, Srila Narayan Maharaj they didn't understand what was, the leadership had problems, right? So I was hiding the book under my pillow and trying to be really secretive about it all and stuff. And she told me his pranam mantra, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaye Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Iti Namine. And I memorized that shloka in 2005, and I started chanting it, and I accepted Gurudev in my heart 100% as much as possible at my level at the time. This is who I wanted to be my spiritual master. But because of the connection with ISKCON and the confusion and trying to get explanations from some of the senior management, it just was confusing. I was asking, well, how is it that I have to take initiation through ISKCON if I want to love Krishna? What does it matter? And there was all these problems, and it just didn't make any sense to me. So I was really, really digging in. I really felt like I connected with the Srila Prabhupada Murti. I would sit down and chant in front of Srila Prabhupada all the time. That was like my space. That was like my go-to place. And I had a dream while I was in the temple of like daydreams, like they were daydreams, and they would return, of Srila Prabhupada handing me over to another branch on the same Chaitanya tree. And that for me was like, this is okay. It doesn't matter what any of these ISKCON gurus say or any of these leaders say. Prabhupada himself was telling me in his own way, or like, I'm not trying to make myself seem like anybody special, but this was my experience, that it's okay to go over to take shelter of Srila Narayan Maharaj. And so I held on to that. And at the time, I mean, I was still, like, I come from a meat-eating family. I mean, I have pictures of myself at 5 years old in a cloud of smoke, like with a pack of cigarettes on my lap at 5 years old, so I grew up in an environment there was a lot of intoxication. And for me to be able to come to this place is like unbelievable. To continue on with what Akhilesh was kind of mentioning, how the internal aspect, and Yashodananda Prabhu had also reiterated the internal thing. For me, when I decided to not make a show of my seva, like I'm very energetic person. I got Mars in the 10th. I'm just like all action. So and I'm prideful about, I have a nature of being prideful for the achievements that I can do with my body and what I can do and my skills and all this stuff. So I'm a bit prideful, and for some reason I want others to see that, right, and my own fault. But on this particular day, it was my seva to wash Krishna's plates after the offering. So I would get them, I would go in and run into Radha's temple and wait for the pujari to come and wash the dishes and clean Radharani's kitchen, because in ISKCON, Radharani's kitchen is separate from the main big cut-up kitchen and all that stuff. So I felt really special. And on this particular day, and I was having these daydreams, and I was really, really aspiring, and I was chanting Srila Gurudev's mantra, and I decided to close the door of Radharani's of her kitchen, close the door, and nobody can see what I'm doing. Nobody else but Krishna, nobody else but Radharani, nobody else but Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. And so that time I felt like I really did it for Krishna only, and it wasn't for any other selfish motive. And it was like within a few days after that, there was a couple who was staying at the temple. They were from South America, and their names were Raghava and Bhadra. I've never seen them ever again. I don't know how, they were just there, but their faith in Gurudev was astounding. Like I remember Raghava standing up in the Govinda's restaurant after hearing somebody say something negative about Gurudev. This man stood up and he chastised this person so severely and so with so much firm faith that I was like, oh wow, this is. And him and his wife gave me their last $15 so that I could leave the temple, because I was having problems with the leadership there, and seek out Srila Narayan Maharaj and go and take shelter from him. And so I got some of their mercy. I really wish, if anybody of you know Raghava and Bhadra from South America somewhere, he's an amazing musician, guitar player. I don't know if you ever come across who they are, please let them know how grateful Laksman is. They'll know who I am. And so it was that internal connection that I feel was really the flame, the spark that really somehow gave me the maybe connection with Gurudev, that this person might be a little bit sincere. And it took me another entire year before I actually went to see Gurudev. And I asked for Diksha and he gave it. And I don't understand how or why, because I really wasn't, I'm not very consistent, not very in my practices. And so I feel extremely fortunate. And just here's one little pastime. When I first saw Gurudev, I was so enthusiastic to be close to him, and I didn't understand the etiquette. So when Gurudev sat down on the Vyasasan, I ran up and sat down right there, right where all the sannyasis were supposed to sit. And I was trying to find a seat, and somebody came up and had a big bouquet of flowers, and they pointed at me and said, "Give to Gurudev." So I reached over and I gave to Gurudev, and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And then he looked, and then he, with one shoe of his hand, like it was like gigantic. He just went like this. He said, "To the deities," like this. And I literally fell back into the laps of the senior devotees that were sitting there. And I literally fell on them, and it was really embarrassing. But then I ran over to the altar and gave to the pujari, and then I found my seat. So Gurudev's disciples and his senior disciples like Akhilesh Prabhu, Charu Chandrika, Yashodananda, all these wonderful devotees I see, Madhuvrat Das. These are like, for me, you guys are senior devotees. I fell into your lap. Gurudev has pushed me into your lap. So if I could please get your guidance in the future, I'd be most grateful. And that's pretty much what I have to share. I hope you get something out of that. And if I could get your blessings and mercy to continue my chanting. Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Laksman Prabhu, that was so short and sweet, but I felt like I want to hear more from you. It's just so beautiful. Actually, I think it was last week or the week before, we were just saying how Gurudev's every little thing that he did meant so much, something so more deep in his messaging, and the way he spoke or the way he did something. It had so much gravity to it, and it just seems like whatever Srila Gurudev has impressed in you has given you so much gravity, and it's very, very beautiful. And there was one thing that you spoke about when you used to sit in front of Srila Prabhupada's murti, which I saw any murti that you sit in front of Srila Prabhupada, especially the ones where he established the mandir there as well, the temple there. They're just so potent, and it's like Srila Prabhupada's listening to us. And there's many years I've spent in Soho Temple in London, sitting in front of Srila Prabhupada, until someone told me that Srila Prabhupada himself established his own deities. And I was like, that makes sense. That Srila Prabhupada is there. He established his own murtis, meaning that he's completely listening to me, and that's why he answers all of my questions. And it's just so beautiful that he passed you over to Srila Gurudev without any hesitation, and that just shows the oneness in them, that there actually is no difference in them. They're so one, and it's just really, really beautiful. And you spoke about seva and not having no pride in doing seva. Actually, it's really hard to do that, because when you're doing seva, it's like you sometimes your mind goes, oh yeah, you've done so well. And it's like, fool, you're such a, like, I talk to myself all the time, and I'm like, you're such a fool. Like you have no control over anything that you're doing. It's Gurudev's doing it. And when you have that realization, and you look back on the seva that you did, and you realize, how did I achieve that? And then you go, oh, that's because it wasn't me, and it was Srila Gurudev. And it's so and it's so beautiful, and you're so honest about it. And Gurudev liked honesty. He loved honesty, didn't he? He loved people being honest. And I remember there was one disciple who came. There was two disciples, and someone asked, it was a bit of a nonsense, but someone asked him, why do you keep this disciple around you? And Gurudev said that he's honest, and that's all I want. He's honest. At least we know what he's honest about. So many others are pretending, but he's honest. That's why I keep him around. So I just wanted to say that. Yashoda and the Prabhu, did you want to
yeah, I just really felt you summarized and appreciated Prabhu's Pushpanjali really nicely. So there's no point in repeating. But what I felt from you, Prabhu, was a real heartfelt desire to engage in seva. So I just wanted to say that we got, because of Gurudev's 100th appearance year, there's a lot of projects that are sprouting up. So that Mars in the 10th house energy, I understand what that means. So I know a little bit about astrology, not a whole lot, but enough to know what that means. Maybe we need to engage. Maybe we need to facilitate some of that Mars in 10th house in some seva. So let's follow it up with a phone call.
Sounds good.
Would that be good?
Oh yeah.
And by the way, you come from one of my favorite cities in the world. Beautiful place.
Oh yeah, it is amazing.
I said before on this program, I've never met a nasty person from Vancouver.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're now going to fly from Vancouver in the northwest part of North America, at the bottom left-hand side of Canada, or the very top right-hand side over the border into Canada from the US. And we're going to fly somewhat east and then a little bit south to Cleveland in Ohio. And a big thanks again to Srimati, Parvati, Didi for coming on at the last moment. And also a big thank you to our sweet and beautiful Manini Radha Didi over in LA, who actually had to step in at the last moment and find another devotee to take the place of Shama Sundara Prabhu, who will be speaking, I think, next week or the week after. Srimati Parvati Didi, she met the devotees back in 1981, so quite a senior devotee, and took Harinam Diksha in 1986 and 87 from Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and met our beloved Srila Gurudev in 1997. So I'm sure we are extremely fortunate to hear some of this sharing, and it's definitely going to be beautifully spontaneous because she hasn't had a week or two to prepare. So thank you so much for being brave and spontaneous and proactive and willing to come on tonight, Didi. We're the floor is all yours, as it were, or the Zoom is all yours. Haribol, very warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to serve our Shri Gurudev in a way that's pleasing and that represents the benefits of learning the absolute truth.
Any way you can look at the camera, because we're only seeing one side of your face.
That may be all you need to see is one side. I mean, two sides may be too much.
Okay.
So anyway, I wanted to just express that gratitude. Manini Radha, she's always eager to engage in service. And so I simply thought that, since today's Ekadashi, perhaps, this is a fitting way for me to go outside of my comfort zone and just surrender to the service. Because normally I would not, I just would not. I like to prepare things. I like to be organized and so forth. So I will start by saying, can you hear me good? Does the sound good?
The sound is perfect, Didi.
Okay, very good. All right, Jaya Shri Gurudev, Jai Shri Prabhupada, the Parampara Ki Jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya, Radhikari Priyatmane, Shishma Bhakti Vedanta Narayana, Itanamane, Om Ganat Mariam Yasha, Jana Jana Shalakaya, Chakshur Nitanyena, Tashmai Shri Gurudev Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitanyena Bhutale Swayam Bhupagadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapara Kamalam Shri Guram Vaishnavacham Shri Rupam Sakatyatam Sahaganash Raganatha Vitam Tam Se Jivam Sadvatam Prarijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahana Gana Lalita Shri Vishakavatam Cha. Hey Krishna Gana Sindhu Dina Bado Jagat Bade Gopisha Gopika Kanda Radha Kandam Namostu Ste Tapchaganjana Gaurangi Radha Vindavadeshwari Vishnu Bhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Gurudeva Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada came to the United States in 1965, and I actually understand and feel eternally indebted to him because I found his book in the library in 1982, actually. This book was called The Science of Self-Realization. Srila Prabhupada spoke to me in his discussion, and I became convinced that the Supreme Lord was in the temple and that I needed a spiritual master. So I went to the Cleveland Temple looking for Krishna, and somehow I was expecting to find Srila Prabhupada there. And it was months before I realized, or before I understood that he had left his material manifestation, and I could not take initiation with him. I was devastated. I was so upset because, I had based all of my endeavoring on the fact that I believed I was just heartfelt convinced about what Srila Prabhupada was saying in his book. And it was as though he was actually speaking to me. But in 1987, I was given Harinam and Diksha in 1988 by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who actually left his material manifestation in 2005. So over the years, I have given birth to 5 children. Tulsi is my oldest, Chaitanya, Keshava, Krishnavati, and Harinama. Together, my husband and I, we have 10 grandchildren. And in 2016, my eldest son, Chaitanya Leela, he was actually murdered in Goa, India, at the age of 31. So I don't know how many of you have heard that story about the devotee that was killed there. Well, that was my son, Chaitanya. So clearly, the miseries of material life is ongoing. But due to a deep-rooted faith and devotional service, after some time, I was able to work through the trauma of losing an adult son. Thus, it has been my intent to understand Krishna Bhakti so that I can not only be an example for my children and grandchildren, but also I intend to be able to assist them in developing their own understanding of Bhakti. So sometime in 1999, I was able to hear from Srila Gurudev at a devotee's house, Agraya, in Maryland. Later, I had Srila Gurudev's darshan in Virginia. It was at a park in Virginia a couple of years later. However, my gratitude has been exponentially expanded because of the association and training I've been receiving from Mukunda Prabhu. And I'm sure most of you have known Mukunda, either you've heard of him, just such a powerful preacher. And also Bhumipati Prabhu, Shaima Sundar Prabhu, and of course the late beloved Sai Baba. So I don't know if you know Sai Baba, but he was also a Srila Prabhupada disciple, very, very, very sweet devotee. So now I am endeavoring to process deeper into my heart the conceptions conveyed to me by these sincere servants on behalf of Srila Gurudev, who resides in the core of my heart as my Shiksha Guru. And as a testament to Srila Gurudev's mercy, I was actually reading a lecture that Srila Gurudev had spoken, and his picture, I was on the computer, and I'm reading this lecture, right? And Srila Gurudev actually came out of that picture. And it was as though he actually went inside of me. And I looked around as if to say, what's going on? What is happening? But it was so intense. It was so powerful. It was amazing. It was confirmation to me. You know, I didn't really need confirmation, but it was so powerful that, you know, I had my own personal experience of the kind of entity, the living entity that was in the body of the spiritual master. So one of the things that Bhumipati has always emphasized is this understanding, Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Rasa Tattva. And what is Bhakti? As Srila Gurudev would always ask questions and to make sure that we understood. And as such, this Anya Bilasita Sunyam Ganakamadaya Ganakamari Anavritam Anyukulyena Krishnanu Silanam Bhakti Uttama. Of course, this is something that Bhumi always says again and again and again. So what I'd like to do at this point is I want to share something that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Bhakti Srila Prabhupada wrote, and it's called Words of Wisdom. And it goes like this. First, he says, we are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. Number 2, every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage. Number 3, Possession of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. Number 4, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Number 5, as dalliance with the body in luxury increases, so wanes the spirit of service of the Lord. Number 6, those favored by God find their path set by thorns. Number 7, there is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyances. Number 8, chant the Maha Mantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests. Number 9, be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack of impediments of the world will ever stand in your way. Number 10, pay due respects to the extroverts of the world, but do not be appreciative of their manners and conduct. They are to be shaken off from your mind. Number 11, a devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies his existence anywhere. Number 12, you cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. It is sheer nonsense to decry them with the measuring stick of your intelligence. Number 13, to recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti. Number 14, life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life? Number 15, physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness without Hari Bhajans. Number 16, our span of life on earth is short. Our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari. Number 17, we are here on earth not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work only as messengers for the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. Number 18, a sycophant is neither a guru or a preacher. Number 19, to transform the adverse desires of the jiva is the supreme duty of the most merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence, far superior to opening innumerable hospitals. Number 20, unless we are devoted to God, secularism shall not leave us. Number 21, look within. Amend yourself rather than pry into the frailties of others. Number 22, in this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends for Hari Bhajan. Number 23, the Lord, Gaurasundar, puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune. Number 24, when faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. And lastly, number 25, I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpse of every individual of this world. Jai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Jai Prabhu. So I thought that these are just excellent words of wisdom, and Srila Prabhupada, he said it clearly. I think he said it nicely. And so I wanted to be able to open that up for discussion if anything resonated with anyone, anything that stood out for them.
So I'm having a technology moment just then. You would like to open up? Oh, that's nice. We don't normally do that, so that's really beautiful. By the way, those words of wisdom are amazing. And what would be great is if you can, do you know how to use the Zoom chat? Or if you don't, just let Manini know where the source is, because then we can distribute that on the WhatsApp.
You have that, Manini, don't you? Because Bhumi sent it out.
Yeah, what's the name of it again, Didi?
Words of Wisdom.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably from BVMLU, so I can post that. I'll post it in the chat.
Yeah.
Post it in on the
WhatsApp.
On the Gurudeva Memories WhatsApp, yeah, for everybody. Because the problem with Zoom chat is once the Zoom's over, there's no chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll put it both so it's easy for devotees to find. Okay.
Yeah. The Parvati, Didi, the one that struck me the most, let's see if I can paraphrase it, was when he said, this is Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada, right?
Yes.
And he said an unhealthy body that is engaged in seva or is chanting the holy name is superior to a healthy body that's not doing any seva, right?
Yes.
Oh, your video has just gone off, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, that struck me as very profound. It shows you, in fact, there's someone I know right now, I won't mention his or her name for reasons of privacy, but they went down with COVID, and they recovered from COVID, but they've got long COVID, and they're saying to me actually that there are so many things that they were not doing. I mean, they're amazing servant. I mean, this person really serves, but there are a lot of internal things this person's saying that they're doing now with the less firm, but with the more infirm body, is making them go deeper and making them connect more at an internal level. I think the missing link, perhaps for devotees, is how do we change? How do we transform? How do we go deeper? How do we go more intense without needing the external discipline or adversity of the material world under the service of Krishna to impinge it upon us? Can we actually do it without being hammered, is the question. Is that possible? Or are we just like conditioned so much that we have to get a hammering to change? What do you think?
That's an interesting question. It's something actually we talk about all the time on the call, with Bhumipati's call. And, you know, some devotees are saying that it's really Krishna's mercy, the Guru's mercy. But, you know, Maya is no joke. I mean, she is very powerful. And this conditioned life it's not easy. There's so many distractions. There's so many things. I mean, if you're not a sannyasi and you're living in India, or a sannyasi and you don't really have other responsibilities, but if you have a family, you got a job, you got to work, you know, it's a real challenge. Yeah. It's a real challenge. You know, talk about chanting 64 rounds, please. You know, and you're trying to work, and you know, you got children, And Srila Prabhupada also said, though, that when you have children, that's really your first responsibility. That, you know, you need to make sure that those children are taken care of, that you're, you know, you have a responsibility to your husband, to your household. I mean, you know, that's the service that you have at that particular time.
Which of,
But
out of all of those, out of all those maxims or aphorisms that you read, I think there's about 25, right?
yes,
But that,
25.
just instinctively, which one do you think makes you remember Srila Gurudev the most?
Actually, all of them to me, because this is one of the things that he always talked about, is that one, you know, we should not have so much to say about other people.
Yeah.
And that we should really be focused on what we're doing, not on what other people aren't doing.
Yeah.
That is a main thing that I've heard Srila Gurudev say all the time. And that just all of these, it reminded me of him. And that's the reason why I wanted to read it, because it just resonated so clearly that, you know, that parampara is very, very powerful.
Which number said something like, wish the best, the most auspiciousness on your worst enemy? Which number was that? About number 11?
Let's see.
I just posted it in our chat here, Yashodanandan, as well as you have. So you may be able to look. I'm trying to look very quickly here through. By the way, I love number 13. To recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti. Seems to remind me most of Srila Gurudev. There's just so much just in that one admonishment. If we can just chant that name purely once, you know, that's my aspiration one day to do. And I do appreciate being reminded of this, of these, all of these.
That one that you read really, where is it? I can't find it. It's really strange.
But I remember.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's hiding from us both.
Oh, here it is. It's number 4.
Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. I really felt Gurudev pulsated with that energy. He exhibited that time and time again. So much adversity came to him, so much criticism, so much disrespect, actually. Yet he always rose so far above it. Does anyone who is listening have I think the Didi said, is there anything from those 25 statements that really resonates that anyone wants to talk about?
Haribol, I would like to say that, you know, as I think about all of the seva that has been going on, and Yashodanandan and Yashodari Didi, who you guys have been like leading the forefront of these Bhakti Zoom connections. And I think of this number 14, life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life? I feel this is definitely these ways of us coming together as a Sangha is very life-giving and really a lifeline, as well as like if it were to stop, so much would be lost. And so I think that this unbroken stream of nectar that is bhakti, that we all in whatever way are facilitating by just hearing, you know, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. I mean, we're hearing and we're speaking and coming together. And there are so many, you know, I'm having the experience of so many devotees who I think would be wonderful to hear from, who just are too shy or too, many reasons don't want to speak, but I feel so appreciative no matter what I tune into, you know, to hear from other devotees, all of whom are probably my seniors, you know, but I feel there's so much gained when we get to hear the topics of Hari from all of these angles of vision, and every remembrance really is cumulative and really helps my bhakti. So I'm just indebted to all of you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of any of this, just to even hear. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Manini. We need to keep it rolling post-COVID, because I think the Zoom facilities, in addition to the physical attendance, because if it wasn't for Zoom, like in a normal Sangha day to day, I wouldn't have association with you. I wouldn't have association with Parvati, Didi. And I think it's really beautiful. Like, actually, it really echoes Gurudev's heart, because Gurudev was non-sectarian. He didn't care about color, race, creed, nationality, geography, nothing. He just wanted us to like be flowers on many garlands, working together, cooperating, loving each other, nourishing one another. And I feel that we can do that because Zoom breaks down. It breaks down a lot. It's quite iconoclastic, actually. It breaks down a lot of barriers. It breaks down a lot of hierarchy, and it breaks down any sense of physical separation, which is really beautiful. Didi, I really like the fact, Parvati Didi, that you mentioned the verse Anya Balasta Sunyam Gyan Kamari Navritam and Kalenia Krishna Shilnam Bhakti Uttama. Because actually that's always part of my invocation, because Gurudev used to make every single sannyasi in attendance of any gathering. It used to be kind of fun. I was like, oh, thank God I'm not one of those guys, because under pressure, they'd have to say it perfectly in the Sanskrit, and then they have to translate it and understand the meaning. And as soon as they got it wrong, it was like, no, sit down, on to the next one. It was like, it was hilarious. But it's such an important verse. And actually, that's our sadhya, that's our goal. And in reality, we can't do anything effectively in life, actually materially or spiritually, unless we are guided by our purpose, unless we are guided by our goal. When we have Hegel, the philosopher, that Srila Rakshak Srila Maharaj really quite rated as a Western philosophy, Hegel, the German philosopher, he used to say that man is teleological, which means that humanity is guided by purpose. When we have a clear purpose, you know, like you've been a mother to, like your grandmother for 10 grandchildren, how many children? 4 or 5 children, amazing. And you have purpose. You know what you want, you know how you want to, you know, bring them up. You have a purpose. When we have a purpose, the resources, whether they be material resources, emotional, subtle or gross material resources, they shape around clarity of purpose. So Gurudev in that verse emphasized, re-emphasized the importance of when we're chanting our sadhana, when we're serving, understand what is our goal. It's not some kind of, and whenever I come across any spiritual person that has a different discipline, the first thing I always ask them is, what is your goal? And it's amazing how many people don't have a goal in their spiritual life. And our Gurudev gave that in many times, explaining that we are the servants of Srimati Radharani, that we want to please Krishna, as it says in that verse, by pleasing Srimati Radharani, to aspire for Manjari Bhav. So that was very beautiful. You brought up that verse. Didi, we're indebted to you for jumping in at the last moment. And the fact that you said that you normally like to be really prepared, etc., makes it even cooler. Thank you so much. I think that's great. I love the fact you said you came out of your comfort zone. Gurudev would really appreciate that. Yeah. And thanks again, Manini, for arranging that. Beautiful.
Absolutely. So, but if I could just make one final point.
Oh, yeah.
And
please.
that is with number 24.
Number 24. Yes.
Yes. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. Now, this was a leading thing with all of the difficulties that Srila Gurudev had with coming to United States. I mean, it was just so much fault finding and so much pointing the finger. And if this one thing had really been practiced, then, you know, perhaps it could have avoided a lot of mess, a lot of operatic. So.
Can you repeat that for us, Didi? The number, the aphorism?
That's number 24?
Yeah, just repeat that for us, because it's a really beautiful one.
Oh. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself.
Yeah, beautiful.
Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
That last line is a killer. That's fantastic. It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're really indebted to you. Thank you, Didi. That was beautiful. My respect.
Hare Krishna.
So we're going to fly a little bit south, well, quite a lot south and a lot west, and we're going to hit LA, where Sriman Gaurasundar Prabhu is going to be our fourth speaker. And he's another very senior Vaishnava who I've had the fortune to have some association with. He first met the devotees in 1972 at the age of 7. He said at the age of 5, he first saw the Back to Godhead magazine in the UK, in England, and he met Srila Prabhupada at the age of 9. So very, very fortunate, and received all of his garlands directly from the hand, from Srila Prabhupada's hand at the age of 9. Wow, isn't that beautiful? But he wasn't qualified to be a disciple Diksha then, because 12 was the starting age. So, and Prabhupada left the planet. So he met Srila Gurudev in the year 2000, and Srila Gurudev heard of his intimate association with Srila Prabhupada and told him he's Prabhupada's disciple and also his own disciple as well. Kind of resonates with an earlier speaker, how Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada were a team. They were an amazing team. In 2006, Prabhu received Harinam and Diksha from Srila Gurudev, and he served Prabhupada directly and was engaged in book distribution, drama, plays, and Pujari service in ISKCON, headed up a program for young Indian boys at ISKCON Toronto. And his home served as Srila Gurudev's headquarters base in Los Angeles for many years, and he hosted him many, many times, which I know from my own experience is just a beautiful, incredible experience. And when sannyasis go to LA, they often stay with him. So Prabhu Gaurasundara, Sriman Gaurasundara Prabhu, we're very, very happy. I'm very happy to be introduced to you tonight. A very warm welcome, and please share your Pushpanjali with your beautiful, intimate family. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much. It's such a great honor to connect with you, Yashodanandan Prabhu, and all the other illustrious devotees. I want to thank Manini Radha for inviting me to come on to this Zoom call. This is one of the great benefits of the pandemic, that Mahaprabhu has engineered yet another way of the entire world coming together in every town and village without any geographical boundaries separating us through this wonderful technology. And I'm very, very happy to be a part of this. This, of course, is a very special year, the 125th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's descent to this world, the 100th anniversary of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev's descent to this world, and the 100th anniversary of Srila Vaman Maharaj's descent to this world. So this is quite the year. And as you mentioned, I met Srila Prabhupada when I was 9. And sorry, what?
Take your time, Prabhu, take your time.
He was the world for us. Just stand. In front of him. Was to stand in front of God. Many devotees froze when they were in front of Prabhupada because he had an aura that we'd never seen before. His skin used to glow, a very shimmery skin, and his eyes were always watery, like he was holding back tears. And I remember one thing, he had this whole movement on his back. And he was a diminutive, he wasn't that tall, but he was the battery that made everything happen. He had the ability to make, even if you never saw him and if you were serving in his temple, that you were intimately connected with him. There wasn't like sometimes nowadays where I have to be with my Gurudeva, I have to travel here, I have to have his darshan. No one ever felt that for a second during the time of Srila Prabhupada. In his time, he expanded himself into every atom in the temple. Every atom. You could feel him everywhere. You were in his bosom. You felt like you were on a rocket ship going to Goloka. People were joining in droves every day and every weekend. It was a revolution like the likes of which no one had ever seen before. Krishna consciousness movement spread faster than Christianity did. It took Christianity 300 years to take over Rome, the Roman Empire. And Prabhupada in 12 years was in every country. So he was really a singular figure in history. He was really the beginning and end of his own revolution. No one really knew what the revolution was going to look like until he showed up. He changed so many things, revolutionized so many things. He allowed women to come on the altar, women to live in the temples. He really took the straitjacket off of bhakti in the mood of Nityananda Prabhu to make it accessible to every person on the planet, regardless of creed, sex, culture, background, religion. And Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar said that he was the personification of Nityananda Shakti. Srila Gurudev has said, I have not seen an acharya like him. So coming from Srila Prabhupada, and he was very, even though he's carrying this whole movement, he would give such special attention to little children. I was a child in the temple. And he would take his time to give love, affection, a rose, a flower, a glance, a cookie, a caress to these children that he had. And one of the ladies said, I think it was Parvati Dasi, that Srila Prabhupada said, your children are your main service if you have children. And she's absolutely right. His exact quote is, child worship is more important than deity worship, because they were the future. And I'm saying this about Srila Prabhupada because he, coming from him and being with him, to follow him up is extremely impossible. It was like there's no one that could possibly fill his shoes. You're looking at a person whose literary output outstripped that of Shakespeare, Milton, Chaucer combined. He's the greatest Krishna temple builder in the history of the world. He's made more Krishna devotees than anyone's in the whole world and continues to make them. And one thing about Srila Prabhupada, anybody who knew him, he worked all hours of the night translating and giving lectures, doing initiations, installing Didis, managing the temples, doing fire sacrifices, initiations, managing this whole worldwide empire, and he never yawned once. You never saw Prabhupada yawn once, ever. He outdistanced everybody. He was not human, what he was capable of, what he was doing. And he had this one saying, he said that, which was so all-embracing and all-empowering. He said, don't stop anything that you're doing, just add Krishna. And that was so liberating. He just said, you don't have to change anything, just add Krishna. And so everybody felt immediately empowered to engage in Krishna's service. So growing up with Srila Prabhupada was very difficult to think that anybody could come and fill those shoes. So when he left, it was a big chasm, and everybody felt like kind of an orphan, and that they're just going to continue on somehow automatically doing Krishna consciousness. Some fell away. Many became weak. And then we had heard about this Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Actually, we'd first heard about Bhakti Sridhar Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada posted this letter, a newsletter, BBT newsletter, and he said that in that newsletter, the only one qualified to follow the Sriman Bhagavatam after me and give instruction on the purports and fulfill them is Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. He said that Krishna used him to prepare me, so what to speak of how much benefit you can get from him. So devotees were going to hear from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and that lasted for a short while before the GBC decided to ban him quite horrifically, which started really the first time when the aparadhs started to occur, sectarianism started to creep in because our Srila Prabhupada was not there to correct them. And then Srila Gurudeva Narayan Goswami Maharaj came, and I remember when I first saw him in Badger, New Braj. A devotee in ISKCON had told me, you've got to come and see Prabhupada's godbrother. And so he drove me up there to New Braj in Badger. And he was sitting on his cot in his room, translating. And I come in and I paid my obeisances. And as soon as I looked up to see him, he said, oh, you've brought me such a beautiful boy. And I remember Srila Prabhupada, he spoke 9 syllables to me when he first spoke to me. He said, give all these garlands to that dancing boy, because I was dancing in front of him during his Guru Puja, and Prabhupada took all his garlands off and gave them to me when I was 9. And I've never come off that cloud since then. And Srila Gurudev said, oh, you've brought me such a beautiful boy. They both ended with this word boy. And I was in my 40s, like late 30s, early 40s when I met Srila Gurudev. But that voice had the same lilt and the same warmth and the same embrace and the level of affection that I'd only heard from Gurudev Srila Prabhupada. And then I knew he was back. Then Srila Gurudev, I gave him a donation and he held me close. And then he said, "You stay close to me." And then he said in Hindi, "Tu he said, "Tu hamare beta ban gaye. You become my beautiful son." And then I didn't see him for some time. Then in the Los Angeles temple, I used to visit there, and his picture was on the Vyasa sign. So I used to talk to his picture on the Vyasa sign. I would ask him many questions. Just ask him many questions. And then, by some strange circumstance, divine mercy, providence, he was coming to Los Angeles, and the place that he was going to stay at somehow fell through. So I asked Nischinta Prabhu, the temple president at the time. Actually, it was my youngest daughter. When she heard Srila Gurudev was coming to Los Angeles, I was driving her to school. She was in the passenger seat, and she said, "Gurudev's coming to Los Angeles. He should stay at our house." And it was like a light bulb went off when she said that. I said, "Why, of course." So I told Nischinta Prabhu, I asked him if it's, I didn't know if it was possible to ask if Srila Gurudev would like to stay with us when he came to Los Angeles. So he said, "I will communicate the message." We communicated the message. Then several days later, Srila Gurudev had accepted, which was the greatest good fortune, as Yashodananda Prabhu knows, to be able to host a member of the Parampara. So when he came, this was in June of 2006, hosted him in this house that now then became a tirtha. And that was extraordinary. The whole place becomes completely transformed because everything Srila Gurudev looks at, he offers to Radha and Krishna. So the whole place becomes Mahaprasad. All the devotees flood in, come to all corners of the house, people from all over the world surrounding the perimeter of the house. Because they know their Savior has arrived. So he came. The temple was in crisis at the time in Los Angeles. And the first words he said in the house were, "Can you save my mutt?" He was very anxious about that. He loved Los Angeles because it was the place of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's worldwide Western headquarters. He said, "I want my Western headquarters here, like Swamiji." He told it very, very clearly over and over and over again. And the walls in this house ring with those words. He told all the devotees he had meetings in this house. Sannyasis were here. Members of Bhakti Trust were here. And Srila Gurudev was pacing in the house with great concern. And I wasn't really part of the temple administration at that time. I was just hosting. And I'd recently come from ISKCON to Srila Gurudev. So I was just sort of new to his Sangha and trying to figure out what it was and what his mission was. And he did a lot of extraordinary things when he came. He showed me his tremendous humility. And he knew that it was going to be difficult for me to have anybody replace Srila Prabhupada in my heart. But he found and he weaved this very extraordinary way of just kind of reeling me in like a fish on a hook. All the devotees were outside in the back patio talking about the temple. And the back patio door was closed, and Srila Gurudev was pacing up and down the dining room area and the kitchen and the living room all by himself. And I was alone with him in the house. And I asked him, Srila Gurudev, would you like to go outside and join them? He said, oh, no, 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 no. They're having very important meeting, he said. And if I go there, they will all stop the meeting and do sastang dandavat pranams to me, and I don't want to disturb that meeting. So I got to see how much his temple meant to him, how much his mission meant to him, and how much his promise to Srila Prabhupada meant to him. He didn't want to let Prabhupada down or Mahaprabhu down. He knew that he had to come to give the final template to Prabhupada's mission. Prabhupada established the first platform, but he didn't complete the last section. When Prabhupada translates, he finishes his translation on the 10th canto, part 3 of the Bhagavatam, which is Brahma Vimohan Leela, the coward boy pastime where Brahma steals the calves. So Prabhupada leaves the planet at that time. And he hands the torch as we now move into the Madhurya Ras pastimes to his successor, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, whom he handpicked at the end on the final bed, where one spiritual titan now anoints the other. Srila Prabhupada knows what Srila Gurudev has come to give, that Vraj Ras now has to come. Prabhupada has established the platform. Some quite foolishly may not think out of ignorance that Srila Gurudev is the true successor to Srila Prabhupada. But this is because they don't know that that is how the tattva naturally succeeds. It moves from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti, from Vaikuntha Prem to Vraj Prem, from Vishaya Bhagwan to Ashraya Bhagwan, from the Aishvarya conception of God to the Madhurya conception of God, and from the external mood of Mahaprabhu to the internal mood of Mahaprabhu. So Srila Gurudev is the natural successor to Srila Prabhupada because that's the way the tattva naturally progresses. And when I saw Srila Gurudev's lotus feet, it was quite astonishing because they look exactly like Srila Prabhupada's. Those of us who've touched Prabhupada's feet know what they look like, what they feel like. And when I touched and I saw Srila Gurudev's lotus feet, they're identical. For the longest time, I tried to put Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev in two different chambers of my heart. I said, okay, now I have two gurus. And I tried to work with this conception for quite some time. It didn't work. One was in one chamber, the other was in the other chamber. And for the longest time, for years, there was this great division. And I prayed and prayed and prayed about how can I heal this split? They can't be split in me. And then one day, very beautifully, one came they came inside one another and one sat in the other. It was Srila Prabhupada who sat in Srila Gurudev. And then I realized they're not two, they are one. And one sits inside the other in an unbroken chain. And this is a Khanda Guru Tattva. There's not two, it is one. And that was very hard, but that was the breakthrough that I needed, that Srila Gurudev gave me and Srila Prabhupada gave me to heal this division, which was a division in many devotees' hearts coming from ISKCON, coming from Srila Prabhupada. They served this mission of Mahaprabhu in such a way that so many codes they gave, like Srila Prabhupada rolled the chapatis and Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev cooked the chapatis. And Srila Prabhupada really gave us a kind of a front row seat to the theater of Sri Krishna's pastimes. But then Srila Gurudev comes and gives you a backstage pass of what's going on behind the scenes. Srila Prabhupada built the cake of Krishna Bhakti, and then Srila Gurudev comes and puts a big cherry up on top of it. And he drenches Prabhupada's cake with this nectarian cherry juice. But Srila Gurudev's cherry is so huge that it threatens to overwhelm the whole cake. And these twin spiritual titans who are now celebrating during their anniversaries, the 125th and the 100th, really represent the left and right ventricles of Srimati Radhikadi's heart. They're the two legs of the compass of all Vedic thought, Vaidhi and Raghunuga. And I'm very fortunate in this life to have met both. And both of them slept in my bed. Prabhupada slept in my bed too when I was a kid. He needed a bed to sleep in when he was there. And I had a mattress. And at my mother's place, and Prabhupada was staying up at the apartment up at where my mom was. And so Prabhupada selected my mattress to sleep on. It was a therapeutic mattress. So Prabhupada slept in my bed, and then Gurudev slept in my bed here. So I can't understand this mercy of giving this bed shelter to two members of the Parampara. But I'm completely overtaken. And when I met Srila Prabhupada, darshan of the Acharya is such that they enter into each and every one of your cells, and they become the nuclei of every one of them. And all of the disciples of Srila Gurudev are cells in his body. And we're in this big, giant family now of Mahaprabhu through the guardianship of our acharyas. And I fell into a coma once in 2014. And in that coma, Srila Gurudev came to me and he said, "You'll see a lot of things in my Sangha after I depart. And it may upset you, certain things." But he said, "Don't be angry because everybody is in my shower." To one degree or another. And then in the coma is very delirious because you're not in your body. He took me high above the earth, and he was wearing an umbrella and wooden sandals and carrying a water pot, kamandalu. And he took me all across the earth, and he said, my preaching is continuing all over the planet. I'm preaching everywhere. And this reminded me of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said that after I'm finished preaching here, I'm going to the lower planets to preach there. So these are the emissaries of Mahaprabhu in this Danya Kali Yuga, the most fortunate of Kali Yugas, that those in the Satya Yuga pray to be born in this Danya Kali Yuga, which comes once every 8,600,000,000 years. Because this is the only yuga where the door of Vraj Prem is opened. In every other yuga, it's closed. It only opens once when Mahaprabhu descends, once every 8,600,000,000 years, where Vraj Ras is disseminated. And Srila Gurudev is the topmost Vraj Premacharya of our time, who, on the order and request of Srila Prabhupada, who set the foundation for Vraj Prem and Vraj Ras on behalf of Mahaprabhu to descend to this world, have come together to do this. And glorifying them is the only duty of the disciple. And there's really no other purpose for any living entity on this planet other than to engage in Mahaprabhu's mission, because then everybody will be benedicted in the highest manner. Every jiva has waited trillions of lifetimes to be born in this yuga, because this yuga one has the highest level of transcendence, Braj Prem. So I pray on the centennial celebration that both Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev enter into our hearts and continue to remain there as our left and right ventricles to nourish our bhakti and creepers that they themselves have planted so that they can grow and reach the divine lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, where our two beloved masters sit. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari.
Dandavats Gaurasundara. Can you unmute yourself, Prabhu? I think anything that I add to describe that is only going to detract, because it was so heartfelt and so beautiful. But one thing I wanted to say, which was actually, I feel something that Yashodhara Didi and I had in our hearts when we conceived of this program of being about Prabhupada's 125 years since Prabhupada departed and 100 years since Gurudev departed, was to find someone who could really beautifully weave together and get to the essence through their own story and their own relationship with both these extraordinary personalities, and really imbibe from the deepest emotional place and place of faith and insight as to how Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev were a team and were one, are one, not were one, are one. And to understand one is to understand another. And to have relationship with one is to have relationship with the other in truth. And one nourishes the other. And I remember when I first went to Vrindavan in '96, instinctively, this is before I met Srila Gurudev, and I never went through ISKCON. Budara, he took me to Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I remember just sitting at Prabhupada's Samadhi, and just by being at that Samadhi, I wanted him to be my guru. And like you, okay, you had to wait a little bit longer. I only waited a month from January to February in '96. You had to wait a bit longer for Gurudev. As you said, he came back. Really an extraordinary story, Prabhu. And I don't really want to say much more than that, because I just want to leave devotees with the taste in their hearts of what you've just shared as really very extraordinary. And I encourage devotees to let your friends know, and please listen to that again. It's on the Bhakti Seva, the Bhakti Zoom Seva team on Facebook, and it's a sharing really worth passing around in order to understand the history of the movement, not just chronologically, but ontologically in our very hearts. So beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Jai.
By the way, was your youngest daughter Malini in the car? You're on mute. You've muted yourself, Prabhu. Mute.
I took Malini to see Srila Gurudev first, but it was the youngest who hadn't seen Srila Gurudev when I took her to school. That's when she told me, Gurudev's coming to Los Angeles. He should stay at our house. She gave me the idea. But Malini I brought to visit Srila Gurudev. She was very young and she didn't know what was going on in the room. I told her we're going to go see Srila Prabhupada's godbrother. So she sat beside me and I was doing most of the talking to Srila Gurudev. But what happened was Srila Gurudev, just like the Acharyas, how Mahavishnu penetrates with his glance, he looks at them and he takes the soul, unbeknownst to the jiva even. He just looked at her. She didn't say a word and she left. She went back to Toronto, Canada, and was being raised by by her grandmother, my mother. And my mother, there's no Gurudev disciples at all in Toronto, none. But the mercy and the power of Guru is everywhere, in every atom, every molecule. So what happens is my mother wanted to rent her basement apartment in her house. And two devotees show up. I believe they were the Raghava and Bhadra that the one devotee spoke about in your call. They were Puri Maharaj disciples. They knocked on my mother's door and they asked to rent the basement apartment. My mother allowed them. They stayed downstairs. And my daughter Malini, after visiting with Srila Gurudev with me, was with my mother. So she saw them, but it was like nothing else. But then she started to visit with them in the basement. And in the basement, they were Puri Maharaj disciples. They had all these lectures of Srila Gurudev, and they would constantly play them. So my daughter started to listen to Srila Gurudev's lecture tapes from them in the basement. And she got completely hooked. And she said, I want him to be my guru. So then I called Malini up in Toronto, telling her that Srila Gurudev, we were going to be hosting Srila Gurudev. This was in 2006. And she screamed like anything. Just screamed in joy. She couldn't believe it. I said, yeah, he's coming to the house. Then we flew her back from Toronto back to Los Angeles for the greeting here and the hosting. But what it was is Srila Gurudev just looked at her and took her, but made the arrangement that these Puri Maharaj disciples in Toronto, Canada, of all places, since there's no Gurudev disciples there, would come, have lectures of his, she would hear them, and the seed that he gave to her through his glance, he would water through them, who were looking for an apartment and who happened to rent the downstairs apartment basement from my mom. And he created a disciple this way. So I remember Srila Gurudev, when I was hosting him here, all the questions that I asked to Srila Gurudev's picture in the Vyasasan temple, when I was hosting Srila Gurudev, I didn't have time to ask him any questions because I was very busy with the hosting. As you know, it's very all-consuming when you're hosting the Acharya. But he made sure that his door was open as darshans were going on, private darshans. And I was just walking back and forth to the living room doing all sorts of tasks for the hosting. And he made sure that every question that I asked to the picture, he answered over another devotee's shoulder in a private darshan within earshot that I could hear it at the moment that I was passing, for every question that I asked, kind of showing me his omnipotence. He knew that I needed to feel that he was cut from the same cloth of Srila Prabhupada, that he had the same potency, that he was full Guru, Sadguru. So he would give me these little hints. but he did many other things, many mystical things. One time I went to pick him up at the airport. When I went to pick him up at the airport, this is that first time, 2006. This is quite extraordinary. I can't explain it to this day. I'm driving in the van. The van is empty. Other devotees have come in vans, but my van is the van that Srila Gurudev is supposed to come in. And at the airport in Los Angeles, you can only park for a short moment at the curb because then the securities tell you have to move. So it was like, I just parked there and Srila Gurudev was supposed to come out with the big entourage. All the devotees were already inside the terminal at the baggage claim, ready to greet him. And all of a sudden, and this is after I'd been speaking to him in the pictures on the Vyasa-san, Srila Gurudev comes out of the baggage claim completely alone, not a single devotee with him, and comes right to me in the van to the pass, and he puts his hand and he looks at it and he starts to smile like, I've heard you. And then all of a sudden, I can't explain this now. Another Gurudev shows up with the rest of the crowd, all the other devotees. And the two forms kind of come together and he comes into the van. So even though miracles are for fools, that one devotee said, it's true. But Guru sometimes gives these little glimpses just to show his full potency. So he is extraordinary, and he is the undisputed successor of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And to remember Srila Prabhupada authentically, to Srila Gurudev authentically, you have to remember Srila Prabhupada. He said, honor Prabhupada, then honor me. And Srila Gurudev and Prabhupada, they're inseparable. Bosom buddies. They complete the template. One is the Sambandha Gyanacharya, the other is the Prem Prayojanacharya. And Mahaprabhu sent them in the order that he sent them in order to prepare humanity for this deluge of Raj Prem that Mahaprabhu has planned for 8,600,000,000 years.
Yeah, beautiful, Guru. Would you do us the honor of, we've got a few announcements to make.
Sure.
We'd be very grateful if you could just stay for the announcements, because
Yes.
we think you'll really appreciate some of them.
Sure.
The first announcement is, some of you will know that on the 11th of July this year, it is Rath Yatra. So we are organizing World Sankirtan Day, the International Day of Joy. And the idea is to have 108 Sankirtans around the world. We've already got almost 50 cities signed up from all the continents. We've got 58 to go. And it's totally non-sectarian. So it's ISKCON, it's Gurudev, it's Gaudiya Math, but also we're promoting it to non-devotees. We put out about 1,000 press releases. Karuna Mai is very expert in social media and has put out about 1,000 press releases to different social media outlets that are interested in this kind of thing. So we'll bring non-devotees to it as well. And the idea is to have this building every year. So we're going to have this every year. And so it can get bigger and bigger every year. So the first one is this year on the 11th of July. Yashodhari is going to play a video. And if there's anybody in the program now that would like to organize a Sankirtan, then we'll show you where to go. Or just as powerful, if you know somebody or if you know people in other cities who you think, oh, they would be very good to organize this in, wherever, Minneapolis or Santiago or wherever in the world, then please let us know. Yashodhari?
Manini Radha, she told me about the World Sankirtan Day,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, Prabhu.
Are you the one organizing it for Los Angeles?
No, I'm not officially organizing it, but I would love to figure out how we can. I actually talked with Shivananda Sen and Krishna Mai yesterday about
Okay.
this. So I'm having some surgeries on my eyes, so I
That's
can't.
right, I remember.
Yeah, but I hope to be well enough to at least participate if it's happening. Hari Bol.
When is it? What's the date
Let's
again?
play the video and then discuss. Go on, Yashodhari.
July 11th.
July 11th. Okay. All right.
Are you playing the video, Star? Great. So please help us make it happen. I know you're into producing movies, Prabhu, so I thought you would appreciate that. Yeshadari?
You're muted, Gaurasundar, if you were speaking.
Yes, I said very beautiful.
We've got a really good marketing team, actually. So we are, so once we've got the Walton Givden Day happening on the 11th of July 2021, side by side, we've got another program that we're looking to do. And if you've seen the running theme of any of the programs that we do, it's about unity in diversity, and appreciating all of our Guru Varga and our Acharyas that have spent their life and their blood, sweat and tears to take us out of this material world and help us somehow. And our Gurudev, Srila Gurudev, would always encourage unity and diversity, and he would always have all of the Acharyas, sons and daughters around him, and he wouldn't ever discriminate, as we've heard in this class also. He would never discriminate of these are my disciples and that's their disciples. He would help everybody. And so I don't know if most of you did see or not, but we did a 59-hour global glorification for Gurudev's, a non-stop 59-hour global glorification for Gurudev's centennial. And so we wanted to honor that and honor Srila Gurudev. And the best way to honor Srila Gurudev, we were thinking, is that to honor all of the Acharyas. And for us to be able to honor all of the Acharyas, we want to do a 64-hour non-stop global glorification in honoring the Acharyas and the Nitilila Pravishta Acharyas. For example, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shridhar Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, just to name a few. Otherwise I'll be here listing so many, but we're looking to hold that from the 22nd of July all the way up until Guru Purnima. We think it's going to go up to the 24th of July, but it might creep into the 25th because we have a lot of disciples to cover. So that's gonna be 2 weeks after the World Sankirtan Day. So if you know any disciples of any of the acharyas that can come and speak, please do direct us, because we don't know every mutt and every sangha, so we just want to try and reach out to as many people as possible to come and glorify the Guru Maharaj on that Guru Purnima day. So that's our second project.
Beautiful, Yashadari. And the third and final announcement is many of you are probably aware that we have www.harikatar.com launched, which is an initiative that was spearheaded by Lavanga Manjari Didi in Vrindavan. She said to me she didn't have any clue how massive this project was going to be when she started it. But she's managed with a team of 600 devotees. It's been an incredible effort, of which about 80 were the core team, who have managed to take Gurudev's very scattered cassettes and recordings from all over the world for many, many years as Harikatha, and take them up to a very high quality of sound quality with a great search function. I think in total there's about 11,500 lectures, which is about 3.5 times what the number of lectures Prabhupada gave. And they've managed to already put up 1,500 up on the internet through harikatar.com. And we're going to be featuring, is it the 29th of June, Yashadari? I think it is. We're going to be featuring a beautiful like talk show format, where we're going to be talking to many of the Sevaks who experienced great connection with Srila Gurudev when they did this service. So they were plugged in listening to Srila Gurudev's Harikatha, and Srila Gurudev appeared to them in many mystical ways. And we're going to be hearing a lot of that fantastic sharing. That's going to be a beautiful program on the 29th. I can't remember what time, but we'll publish it all shortly. And it's called, so you look out for it, it's called Saving Our Vani Treasure. That is the name of the talk show. Well, that brings us to the close of the program. I have to say I'm looking forward to my bed. It's nearly 11 o'clock, but it's been a fantastic, beautiful program, number 35, at 1:08 p.m. in the 24-hour day. Thank you, Sriman Akhilesh Prabhu from Australia, getting up so early for his beautiful share. Sriman Laksman Prabhu, so happy for your. It was short and sweet and from the heart, beautiful. And we'll schedule your wife shortly to also give her Pushpanjali. And then thank you so much, Srimati Parvati Didi, for spontaneously taking that risk and jumping in at such short notice. And finally and beautifully, Sriman Gaurasundar Prabhu, it's beautiful to see you again. And thank you for your splendiferous, mellifluous, and charming Pushpanjali. Haribol, pronounced. Oh, one more thank you. And thank you for everybody who attends. Sometimes I forget to say this, but your Shravan is our Kirtan. Without your Shravan, without you turning up, there would be no Kirtan. So we're very grateful for your seva, because to lend both ears to the Harikatha is beautiful, beautiful, poetic seva. Thank you. Haribol. And it's good night for me, and it's good night. There used to be a comedy show in the UK. It's good night for me, and it's good night from him.